Bases dropped on another week of Soccer's morning show. Soccer Down Here. John here, you there. Thanks for dropping by. Apologies for 9:06 because I actually sneezed twice just before coming on the air, and I know that you didn't want to hear that, or maybe you did. All right, so here's the rundown for the morning. First off, morning Abby. And Abby has inquired. You know, you see our new logo and our new look and everything. Morning Unk. I got 9:07. So once again, you didn't want me sneezing on the air, so that means we'll go to at least 11:07. Unless you wanted me to sneeze on the air, and it would have been a funny spectacle. Abby has seen the new logo right there. For those of you who are hanging out with us, you see the new logo right there. And we're out and about, covering events and things, and we have our gear that we have here at the network. And Abby was asking, first off, about the Action at the Fraction gear. You can go to our store. You go to the bottom of soccerdownhere.net. There's a banner that you click on, and it's got all of our T-shirts and all of our gear with the old logo. But Abby was wondering about this logo, the new logo right there. So let me put the new logo right up against the logo in the corner. Right now, hats, and we've got a couple. And so reach out to Jason. We do have an extra bit of amount of these. So new logo, hat, very cool. And it's a little different than the look in the past. They're legacies. And traditionally, you know how when you have, trucker hats, this is beige. But the deal that we found with our friends from Legacy is it went gray. And so very, very cool from our friends at Legacy. So Abby, reach out to Jason. Limited amount. And if there is, if there is a demand for these and the other gear, then let us know. Like I said, all the previous gear that we have, go to our store, bottom of the page at soccerdownhere.net. But right now, new logo, hat. That's where we are. And we know that Jason will run a hole in, Maddie will run a hole in this. Scott Flood will run a hole in this, and we know that you will too. So reach out to Jason. Jason will have the deets, as the kids say, on how to grab the limited supply of the new lid. So the new lid with the new network branding and everything is right there. As always, batting leadoff here. Now I'm going to postpone opening kickoff because it is, well, actually, I won't postpone opening kickoff. It'll be part of the segment that we have with Abe Gordon. This will be for the next couple of weeks. This is the last time that we will catch Abe either at home or in the Imitation Palatial Estate at Colony Square in the studios in the office space at 92.9 The Game, because he's got some other football that he has to attend to. And we wish him nothing but the best and hope that it will not be like 87 degrees at 9 o'clock in the morning with matching humidity, and you're under a tent and you have to like pack for 9 different things, knowing that you're going to schwitz through all of it. So I just have this vision of Abe heading up to training camp, basically packing a suitcase with him every single day that he goes with multiple pieces of clothing, knowing that he's going to be blowing through what's ever there. So filibustering to 9:10. I've rounded off. Morning, sir.
How are you? Yeah, I am a heavy sweater in the heat, and so we will be taking preventative measures, if you will, to deal with it, so we don't run into any overheating issues.
Yeah, and that is key, especially now. How long are you supposed to be out in the field, meaning outside the station when you're doing this stuff next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, like practice will start at 9:30-ish there for the Falcons up in Flowery Branch. The show I produce will start at 11. So
the show that you star in, sir.
Well, I don't know about that, but so yeah, we'll be out there for just under 90 minutes watching practice before we come back in and start the show. So 90 minutes, not too bad.
Okay. And then hopefully do you get to retreat at that point, or do you have to actually stay and do things to help out other shows that you star in?
No, we'll do the show, and we'll be in air conditioning for the show, so
Ah,
that helps as well. That helps as well.
because
So
I was concerned that like in the old days, and we could be talking as old as last year, where you're out in a tent and you're in the elements, and they put you in a corner in the parking lot, and you kind of have a sight line as to what's going on behind you, but you're sweating your what off under a tent in miserable conditions. That's what I was concerned about.
well, the thing that was tough in previous years was that when the fans all left and the players got off the practice field, we're still just out in that tent doing a show for like 2 more hours, and it's only getting hotter throughout the day. So,
Uh-huh.
luckily, some reprieve thanks to the Atlanta Falcons' generosity with the Ticketmaster studios up there at
Oh,
Flowery Branch. So,
oh,
very, very nice and palatial.
oh. The Ticketmaster Studios,
That's
excellent.
right.
See, now that they, since you had to drop that plug, I think they need to wander over this way and perhaps spread some coin over here. Here, the Imitation Palatial Estates at Studio HD. Abe Gordon at 92.9 always bats leadoff with us on Mondays to break everything down from the weekend from an Atlanta United perspective. So, welcome to the chaos that is Leagues Cup. It was very Leagues Cup-ish. We've kind of converted it into its own adjective and predicate now, where there are moments of chaos and there are matches of chaos, and then you just have some that are just mind-numbingly double zero goals, and you're wishing that you could get 90 minutes plus a shootout back. But Atlanta United did not give you mind-numbing behavior. They went straight to the chaos in match number one.
Yeah, look, there's no denying it. Look, I'm not one that's averse to drunk soccer matches. I mean, I've been parts of them, and certainly as a viewer as well. I do enjoy them. I enjoy them more when Atlanta United comes out on the winning side. But at the end of the day, you did get a point, and so you were able to split 3-3 in regulation, and then obviously lose the penalty kick shootout, and just a brutal finish there for Bartosz Slisz, who had to deal with it personally, missing a penalty, or not missing it, having it saved in regulation, and then unable to convert in the penalty kick shootout. So you do give up 2 points to 1 point, but you're still right in it. You pretty much control your own destiny. Is where we're at. If you handle business, against Santos on Sunday, you can still advance in this thing, and it's a very forgiving tournament. So we'll see what happens midweek between Santos and DC United in a game that's now being played in Chester, PA. Yeah, not a great look there for DC United. But look, there was some good and some bad, and that's what's going to happen often when a game results in we'll call it a high-scoring draw. Look, you're still dealing with the same issues, and you're still being punished for the same issues. And the amount of mistakes that you have made this season in your final third that has directly, almost immediately in all situations, turned into a goal for the opponent is unforgivable. It's something that has needed to be cleaned up and continues to be an issue. And so this one was off the boot of Josh Cohen. It was a very poor clearance. It was, to be fair, it was mishit. It wasn't poorly intentioned. It was a mishit ball. But you get punished for it immediately and go down 1-0, and you fight as this team has done all year. By the way, you fight, scratch, and claw your way back into a situation where you can get a draw. Again, you had opportunities to take the lead in this one if you hit a couple of penalty kicks and do that thing. But so you go to the PK shootout and all that, but look, it's just setting up a pretty wild tournament, and it's always wild when you're getting MLS and Liga MX squads. It's always wild when there's that many teams heading to a knockout stage. I mean, again, this is a round of 32 that you're trying to qualify, not just quarterfinal, round of 16, none of that stuff. It is 32 teams advancing. And so it's a very forgiving tournament. You're still in an okay position because you at least got the 1 point out of the draw. But again, it's a situation where it's just so frustrating because the mistakes just cost you and cost you and cost you. And with very few exceptions this season, you haven't really been able to counter on the other side, right? Like you are forcing turnovers in your attacking third. Your press has worked, but with the exception, I guess, of the TRA goal, with the exception of a couple of other instances, you're being punished for it way more than you're benefiting from it, and that's got to change.
Can we talk about Bart for a second?
Yeah.
The post-match sound, and full disclosure, Maddie was there and I was there, and there were a lot of folks. I mean, there was the scrum that was there, but Maddie and I were there. That is not me, by the way, that is reaching out. It was a difficult watch being there in person. It was a difficult listen, both in person and the second time. But I think what it does is it reminds us, when you are the new guy and you are in a situation that is new to you on the field, in addition to off the field. And I mean, you're adding also to the mix that he's a newlywed in all of this. That what happened to him was a difficult watch, but I hope that we all learn more about people in a situation like that, in hearing what Bart had to say after the match. That included dropping a muted F-bomb in the post-match. But I mean, he dropped an F-bomb off the top, and he admitted it. He used a different word about messing up. But I think it reminds us about how human these guys are and how human they are in these new situations.
Well, there's a couple of things at play here. And the first one in regards to Sleesh is that these are mistakes that athletes make. And it happens to the best of the players in the world. I mean, how many weeks away from watching Cristiano Ronaldo cry over a penalty kick that he didn't convert? Well, no, I mean, look, the emotions are real, and certainly the tensions were different, and the stage was a little bit different. But we're talking about Bartosz Slisz, and we've seen Lionel Messi had one saved recently. We've seen Cristiano Ronaldo had one saved recently. These are moments that happen when you're put in these situations. And it is like the human side of it, to see how tough he takes it, and how much it means to him. Even if it's not at the stage that Ronaldo's was, you can tell it bothers him. Yeah. You can tell he's impacted from it. Here's the thing. We need him to find a way to not be impacted from it, because mentally he needs to be in the game in those moments. And this is not the first time we've seen Slisz make a mistake, and it's taken him time to recover. Now, at least in this instance, that second penalty kick was not in the run of play, and he's got a week to kind of recover that mindset. But this team still needs Bartosz Slisz. Like, let's not get it twisted. There are frustrating moments, but he's been integral for what this team has been able to do on both sides of the ball this year. And so for him, it's tough. I mean, it's really tough. And obviously by the placement in the PD penalty kick lineup, they tried to bury him. Yeah. Let's just call it what it was. They tried to bury him. You had a couple of other takers that were still available, right? Amador.
Like Stian, Pedro, Josh. I mean, that's where
and Ronald Hernandez was the other one. And so you were down to it. You went into sudden death, and you had already rolled through half of your roster before getting there. And it's just tough. He was not in a good place mentally to take that second kick. I think you could probably see that by the design and the plan on that second kick. But yeah, I mean, look, it's not fun to watch a guy have a penalty kick saved. It's not fun because, especially in game, I mean, first off, they didn't even call the penalty originally, which is wild. I was sitting there with you before I went back to my booth. I like, dude, like, there's a full arm extension with a turn of the body. Like, it's the easiest call in the world. I don't know how it's not made live. They did get it right ultimately, eventually. Yeah. But the difference between that is when the crowd reacts, when you have that moment and you think you're tying the game, or you think you're taking the lead, whatever the situation may be, and then it doesn't happen. It it is just the bottom falls out emotionally. And so it's a little bit different in game than it is in a penalty shootout. But look, I mean, you play enough of these things, you're going to have kicks saved. The confidence is a little weak right now for Bartosz Slisz, at least from the penalty spot. But he's got to pick himself back up. The team's got to pick himself back up. And here's the thing, and we've seen it from time to time with sports. I think we've seen it from the Atlanta United fan base. They've got to pick them up too. And I think that's the important thing. And look, let's be honest, for the most part, I haven't seen a lot of yelling from the fans, from the 17s about Slisz this, Slisz that. I can't. No, they've been relatively supportive, and it needs to remain that way because that's what he needs, not just from his teammates, not just from the staff, but from the fans too. And when someone's going through it in this manner, and it's one thing for you to be critical when a guy doesn't seem to care, right? That's the important thing. If a guy screws up and he's like, whatever, I'm a pro soccer player, blah, 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 it's just a game. That's not how Bartosz Slisz is acting. These are really troubling moments to him. They are really impacting him. And it's up to all of us, fans included, to help get him through it, to help lift his spirits, because he absolutely deserves it with how impactful he's been for the team this year.
Yeah, and I thought it was key in the early stages of this where basically Brad Guzan, after the penalty kick miss and sudden death, Brad Guzan basically sprinted to Bartosz Slisz and was one of the first guys to sit there and talk to him. And so the players themselves on the roster, you know that they're going to continue to put their arm around him, be in his ear, make sure to remind him about all these things. Because with the last couple of matches where we've seen Bart work his way forward as a part of almost like a 4-1-4-1 and see him jump into the play and be more engaged, he's creating issues for the opposition on defense, trying to account for numbers and things. And so the idea that he's helping out in the offensive push is part and parcel to his evolution that we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And the one thing that he needs to continue to do that while also being impactful defensively is not be in his own head. Yeah. He can't be thinking about what he's – and you'll say this about any athlete. Like most of these top athletes, yes, there is some thought, but so much of it is just unconscious processing and just reacting to what your body and your brain is telling you to do without thinking about what your body and brain should be telling you to do. And we got to make sure he's not in his own head. And that's what's important. You can't have a situation where he second guesses, should I be pushing forward? Am I going to be able to recover defensively? This, that. It'll eat you alive. That sort of mindset will eat you alive. So we just need him. And like when you look across any league, any team, any player, the best of them, when they're at their best, they're free flowing. And that's been the truth for, I mean, however many years soccer has been played. The more free you are on the field as an individual, as a team, the better you're likely to be. And so we just got to make sure that he's got that mindset, the freedom to do what he thinks is dangerous and the right play, and without getting too caught up in his own mentality. And I think he will. I think in the moment there are those emotional drops and issues. But I think, look, you're going to have a full week off for him to kind of reset, recover, and regain that mentality. I think he'll be fine moving forward.
In the 3-3 draw, what else stood out to you against
Saba? Always Saba. Saba just continues to be incredibly impressive, and Rios as well. I just – when I look at what you've lost off of this team in regards to your 10 and your 9, and for a long stretch, and we're still asking, and I'm still going to ask it, but where are the goals coming from? How are they getting created? I think Saba has really stepped up. There's no secret there. He's been incredibly dangerous. He works his tail off. He runs a ton, but he's also looking to get inside that box and be dangerous. And then Rios, just for whatever it is, I never thought that he was going to be the goal scorer that he's become. And he does it differently than a lot of the top goal scorers in this league. There's no denying that. But, I mean, look, one of the things about being a good striker is being at the right place at the right time. working hard, putting in that extra whatever it is to get some ugly goals. And quite frankly, not all of them have been ugly, but quite frankly, some of them are ugly goals. But that doesn't make you a bad striker. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that there's a talent to knowing where to be and what time to be there inside the box. And that's one thing you certainly can't take away. I did not think that Rios is going to come in and pretty much tally a goal per game, essentially over the last 8-10 games, whatever the number is. I mean, he's been very dangerous. And a lot of that I do think has to do with Saba as well.
All right. So what's your week like before you head north and we catch up with you from the branch?
Yeah, I mean, look, really tuned in on, I believe it's Wednesday, to that DC and Santos match, and just kind of interested to see what United's going to have in front of them. They'll know on Wednesday night what they're going to need to do to advance against Santos at home there on Sunday. But there's another cool opportunity here for Atlanta United fans. And that is on Saturday night, the twos. They're going to be broadcast live on 92.9 The Game. So 8 p.m. with, I think, an 8:30 kickoff. We've got MLS Next Action coming your way on 92.9 The Game. I believe this is the first time that it's happened, certainly the first time this season. And so that's really cool. And that's something we kind of talk about a number of these players. We've seen some of them in U.S. Open Cup, but you don't always have an opportunity necessarily while you're driving. I know you guys do a lot of great stuff with them as well, but clickable links. But this one's going to be right there on the radio, and so it should be a fun one going against I think it's New England on Saturday night. So that one's going to pop at 8:00, and then we're all going to turn around and get ready for Santos. And just remember, that's an afternoon game on Sunday, 3 p.m. pregame, 4 p.m. kickoff. And so that one's going to be fun. That one's going to be really fun. And look, we're going to know what we need to do to advance. And you're either going to be chasing something or holding on to something. I mean, you're going to know. And in those situations, those type of group stage games, where you're like, we need to win, but it needs to be by this many goals, or we need to draw or a loss, but only a 1 goal. I mean, just the situations can get real interesting in the second half if you need to tally more or stuff like that. So really looking forward to that. That can be very fun.
Yep, no doubt about it. Very full week. All right, enjoy your time, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
You got it. Appreciate it, John.
As always, Abe Gordon batting leadoff here on Mondays. And I know that you guys have been having a great discussion this morning. I'm going to apologize up front because I sound like Ish. And the reason that I do is because I'm battling a summer cold and I just wish I could detach my nose. That was not the other point that I wanted to make this morning before leading into Abe. But yeah, I'm going to apologize right now because if I could take my nose off and put it over there, we'd be great. But unfortunately, I can't do that. All right. And so just kind of deal with me kind of being all nasally this morning. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com as I cover up our friends' QR code from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. That's a QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You click on that QR code and it takes you to Kickoff Coffee and you get to kick off your day there. See what I did? Use that QR code, get into Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest in cool things and cool initiatives that they have earmarked. Great stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. So in the next little while, we're going to go over the match with Atlanta United and go over the match with Atlanta United too. And I'm going to say off the top that it was a fantastic weekend, or is a fantastic day for us up in Huntsville. And we cannot thank our friends at Huntsville City Football Club enough. Chad Emerson, VP and Director of Business Operations, Jacob Brabant, who's Director of Communication, everybody who's in game day operations, who made our experience as top-notch as it always is when we get to go to Wicks Family Field and Joe Davis Stadium. So obviously, when you travel, and you can catch up with the the twos review that was posted yesterday, you get to hear from head coach Steve Cook. You get to hear from Rodrigo Neri. You get to hear from Caden Moore, the newly signed Caden Moore, the next stage of his life. And you get highlights and analysis and stats and things like that from me and Maddie. But when you go on the road these days, unless you know somebody in the place that you're traveling, you have to stay in a hotel. And we did. We stayed in a couple of different hotels. I stayed in the one that I always stay at because I know it works. I know it functions. I know where it is in relation to everything. And it's a pretty solid hotel. But and I want to check and see if this is just me or if you guys agree with this as well. When you're in a hotel these days, is it just me or do all of the pillows in hotels just suck? You go into a hotel these days and literally the pillows that you have, now I know why they put 4 on the bed when you have a double. But these days, pillows are just awful in hotel rooms. I mean, literally, if you have the one pillow that you're there in the room with, and you lay down, basically your head sinks into the pillow, and the rest of it's like literally the pillow just pushes out to the edges, and your head basically sinks inside the pillow. So you have to get the second pillow underneath the first one to even prop your head up in the least amount possible. And then if you want to move around the bed, then you might have to have the third one behind you or figure out how to go double in both of the positions that you want to be in the bed. And God forbid you want to sit up because your back ends up sinking into the backboard. I don't know when this changed, but I think there has been a concerted turn in pillows in hotels to where it is almost, to create a word, unlaydownable when you're in a bed in a hotel room these days. For me, it's stunning at times just how sunken pillows are and how much of a battle it is to sit there and try to be comfortable in a hotel room these days. I didn't know if that was just me or not. So when you guys are in hotels, do you experience the same thing? Pillows are difficult. And so literally I had problems falling asleep after the match on Saturday night. Well, one, because traditionally, after a match, it's hard to with the adrenaline that you have, it's hard to calm down after a while. But then when you do crawl into bed and you're finally, wiped out enough to go to sleep, then having those pillows there, it's just incredibly difficult to try and fall asleep. So I didn't know if it was just me and I'm being a whiny traveler by wondering about the current state of pillows in hotel rooms. I'm genuinely curious about this kind of stuff. Genuinely curious. So like I said, that's just me. And I didn't know if it was me just being a whiny traveler or if you guys are experiencing the same things. Pillows are different and pillows are difficult in the modern day hotel room. That's your opening kickoff. Half hour late. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code. From our friends at Kickoff Coffee, you hit that QR code. You click on that, you get into Kickoff Coffee, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%. Reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. And did not want to confuse them with the QR code from our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps. Over 30 years of experience in finding folks their next gig when they want to go down the nursing track. Hit this QR code if this is something that is in line for you. Down at the bottom, for those of you who are listening, and not watching on our social medias, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on the Twitters, the 280-character app. They ask, how'd you hear about us? It's like soccer down here. So our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps, great partners with us here at Alliance Nurse Corps, and great partners across the board here at the SDH Network. So there you go. All right. Highlights. I'm going to get into the highlights of both the twos and the first team from the weekend, and get into stats and and storylines and numbers and all that kind of stuff. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. And apparently Novak Djokovic has beaten Rafa Nadal in the second round of men's singles. Those two paired up in the second round. Djokovic beats him 1-4, and everyone's paying attention to all of that. So, all right. Highlights from the match, and we'll get into stats and numbers of that one, and then we'll get into stats and numbers of Atlanta United 2 and their craziness on the weekend as well, and what we got to see from the go-round with Atlanta United and with DC United, with the 3-3 draw that was there with that. So it was absolutely crazy when it came to this particular game. Obviously, it was a 1-0 lead early on for DC United, but then you sit there and to the point that we were making about certain individuals and how they have been finding the back of the net. Daniel Rios even things up for Atlanta United.
Fortune cuts inside now and then pitches across the halfway line. A good ball for Saba. Saba runs it down and dribbles on McVeigh. And this cross is blocked by McVeigh. It bounces out to the touchline to Lennon. Lennon in the near corner. Another cross. Rios header! Score! Daniel Rios' hot streak continues. His 7th goal of the season. And Atlanta United back level in the 21st minute.
And I think the underappreciated part of that particular goal, comes to the idea of the hockey assist. The ball by Jay Fortune to get things started down the right-hand side was the outside of his foot. To get that up and running. And it was an insane ball from Jay Fortune to get things moving. So you end up with Benteke scoring in the 4th minute. Daniel Rios scores in the 20th. Then Jared Stroud scores 2 in 7 minutes. And the second goal that Stroud scored was an absolute volley. Tremendous work from Jared Stroud. He was sized up, but he was all by himself outside the edge of the 18, had the space to set it up and knock it through. 3-1 at that point. And then toward the end of the first half, you're kind of thinking, okay, so if Atlanta United can get one, if Atlanta United can get a goal on the board after everything that they've experienced so far in the first half, they can make it 3-2 at the half, and things can get interesting in the second 45. They did exactly that, courtesy of who we found out is a new father. Once again, courtesy of our friends at 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. Saba Lobjanidze makes it 3-2.
Here's Lennon with a pitch down the middle for Shande Silva. It connects at the top of the arc. Pass to Rios in the penalty spot, and it's volleyed away by McVeigh. Outfield to Saba at the top of the 18. Dribbles forward, cuts right, shot. Score! Golasso! Listen, all you all, it's a sabotage. And this game has devolved into a weird Beastie Boys music video. We've now had a 5th goal in 38 minutes.
He ain't kidding. No, he is absolutely not kidding, because sure. And so it was 3-2 at the break. And it was so Atlanta United's up at 3-2. And then you had a couple of instances that could have been called penalties, were not. And I know, as Abe mentioned in the segment that he was in, that there was one where you're like, okay, there was a grab and a spin and no call. But I will say this about the man in the middle. He was consistent. I will say that he is consistent. And that is all you can ask for from an official. I mean, obviously, it was from Fernando Guerrero Ramirez. Traditionally, averages 0.4 reds a match, 3.81 yellows a match. But from him, from Fernando Guerrero Ramirez, you got consistency. Even if it drove you nuts, you got consistency. If he wasn't going to call anything short of, just no blood, no foul, you were not going to get a whole lot from him unless it was absolutely just the most blatantly obvious call. Remember, his VAR had to be corrected. So it went to VAR, and his initial call was upgraded to the spot. So you end up with all of this going on, all of this chaos going on around you, in a game that was slam it into fifth gear, drop the transmission, and back and forth the entire time. 3-2. But then when you do get a penalty called, it's in the 81st minute. And now you end up with your equalizer, once again, courtesy of Daniel Rios from the spot this time to tie things up at 3-3 once again. 92-9 the game on the Odyssey app.
Whistles. And now here we go. Rios stepping to the left. Now up to the ball. Strikes it. Score! Beautifully taken penalty by Daniel Rios. And it's 3-3 with 10 minutes to play.
And Atlanta United had most of the action on their front foot in the second 45. DC at times looked like they just wanted to get out of there in one piece. They did eventually, getting the extra point in the penalty kick shootout. And we went over that with Bartosz Slisz, et cetera. So DC United ends up getting the extra point out of the gig. And for those of you who are trying to find any kind of information on Santos Laguna, you start with this. Position in the table. And right now, it ain't all that good. Santos is 16th out of 18. They have not won in their first 4 matches in the Apertura. They only won 4 matches in the Clausura, finishing 15th last season. 15th in the Clausura, they won 4. 16th currently in the Clausura, they have not won 1. So if you're looking for anything that can start a silver lining, the fact that Santos Laguna is in your group and they have not been very good at the start, that'll get you moving to at least start things off. Stats on the day: 54-46 possession, DC United. And in the second half, it was 50-50. XG 2.64 for Atlanta United to 2.31 for DC. Each team had 2 big chances, 17 total shots for DC compared to 11 for Atlanta United, 2. Keeper saves 4 for Alex Bono, 3 for Josh Cohen. 5 corners to DC for 2. 27 fouls in the day, 15 of them called against DC United. 38 more passes attempted by DC United. 3 tackles compared to 2 for Atlanta United. 3 free kicks compared to 1. Both yellows end up going to DC United. Probably could have been a lot more. Then you end up with the total shots. 7 of the 11 for Atlanta United were on target. 6 of the 17 for DC. DC hit the woodwork 3 times, especially in that early chaos in the first half. 3 blocks compared to 1 for DC United. 9 shots inside the box for each, which means 8 shots outside the box for DC compared to only 2 for Atlanta United. Big chances scored 2-1 DC. Big chances missed 1 for Atlanta United. Through balls 3 each. Touches inside the 18, 22-17. Fouled in the final third 3 times for Atlanta United, none for DC. 4 offsides called for DC. Accurate passing, final third phase, 23-37 compared to 42-62. Final third entries, DC had more by about a quarter. Long balls, 27-26. Crosses, 7-6, both for Atlanta United. Duels on the day, 34, 1 of 88. 20 of 43, 1 in the air. So DC had the height. They won 31 of 91. They've actually less ground duels than Atlanta United did. Aerial duels 19 of 41 on the dribble, 6 of 10 compared to 12 of 17 for Atlanta United. Tackles 1. Interceptions 16-13 for DC. Recoveries 51-49 DC. Clearances 19-8 Atlanta United on the day. Keeper saves once again 4-3. High claims 1 each. 7 goal kicks for DC United compared to 6 for DC on the day. So that was your numbers. Your lineups, remember. Morning 4 card. Starting lineup for Atlanta United in the 4-3-3. Josh Cohen at the back. We talked about his error early on. Back 4, Ronald Hernandez, Derek Williams, Steon Gregerson, Brooks Lennon, Bartosz Slisz, Jay Fortune, Tristan Muyumba. Saba, Daniel Rios, Shande Silva up top. By the way, Daniel Rios with the 2 goals had an 8.8 courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. 98 minutes. And by the way, he left. For those of you that might have missed it, it was a cramp, basically. It was not a strategic placement of Nick Firmino coming in for penalties, considering that Bono had just seen Daniel Rios. We initially thought that might be the case. But as it turned out, it was a cramp that Daniel Rios suffered in the 98th minute, and that was why he was pulled just before penalties. XG at a 1.13, 3 shots on target, 22 touches, 100% passing for Daniel Rios on the day, 15 of 15. 2 of 4 on the ground, 2 of 3 in the air. So total duels, 4 of 7. Was fouled twice and had a clearance. So that was Daniel Rios on his 8.8, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore on the day. So that was the big scoring there, and for Daniel Rios and Atlanta United. So that's where we are with Atlanta United in the aggregate punching a 6.83. And going over everything else that happened in Leagues Cup on the weekend. You know, we always sit there and we talk about the chaos that's attached and everything that is laid out with Atlanta United. So in Leagues Cup, majority of the time, and we'll get to the quote from Dean Smith coming up in just a little bit about the matchup that he had. And he was not one to mince words. I don't think he is one to mince words, to be perfectly honest with you, but he certainly did not mince words last time out. So in Leagues Cup in and of itself, so Atlanta United starts the tournament 3-3, and DC wins 6-5 on PKs. Here's the rest of the results. And it kind of showed that the early results were the ones that were more chaos than it was with the ones that were later. Orlando put 4 on Montreal. Austin beat Pumas 3-2. Seattle beat Minnesota 2-0. We'll catch up with Nico Moreno on Thursday and find out about it. And LAFC beat Xolos 3-0 at BMO. Atlas beat Houston 1-0. New England beat Mazatlan 1-0. Goalless, Red Bulls in Toronto. Toronto won 5-4 in PKs. Philadelphia beat Charlotte 1-0. Messi and Friends, which was just and Friends, beat Puebla 2-0. St. Louis beat Dallas 2-1. Chivas and San Jose 1-1. San Jose won 4-3 in PKs. New York City FC beat Querétaro last night in a game that you really did not get your 90 minutes back. Had that one on for most of the match. It was pretty painful. Kansas City beat Chicago 2-1. Leon beat Portland 2-1. And so tonight, a lot of matches tonight. Some folks are already into their, tomorrow. Tomorrow, a lot of folks are in their match of week 2s. And you get to see what's going on with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches tomorrow. And then you end up with how many matches? 6 matches on Wednesday. Then it's another 4 matches on Thursday. And that gets you into the weekend with Atlanta United and Santos Laguna. 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, starting that whole rush with all of those matchups in Leagues Cup. And you get to figure out where things are. But the early matches in Leagues Cup were the ones that had all the chaos. All the chaos was early. Seemed like the later that we got into match week 1, the less chaos there was. But Atlanta United with a point, DC with 2. But 5, 5, 2, 3. And then after LAFC and Tijuana, 1, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2. None, 3, 3. And that's where we are so far. That's both teams and the numbers of goals that were scored. So early, chaos. Later, not so much. Dropping through Leagues Cup right now and letting you know where things stand. I know that you guys have comments. And so what we'll do is let me go through the 2s. And then we'll go through your comments about Atlanta United. And I know that you guys have had a lot to say there because I did want to spend a lot of time on the situation up in Canada because there's a lot to talk about. And trust me, there is a lot to talk about with that. And then there was stuff that happened over the weekend that we've got to kind of get caught up on. And there's some conversations that I wanted to play in hour number 2 that I thought were important. One of them is the John Herdman press conference from Toronto FC, where he is asked about the revelations when they first came to light. And it ended up monopolizing the press conference that he was having for Toronto FC leading into their match this weekend. Literally, it got to the point to where the press officer had to remind folks that they were there to discuss what was going on in Leagues Cup. So that was, it was interesting to hear that. It's going to take a little bit of time because it's about a 4-minute clip, but it goes into what the Canadian press was asking John Herdman and what his responses were at that time. And then after that, there was a conversation that was had yesterday by our friends up north at One Soccer. Jordan Wilson and Christian Jack were with Gareth Wheeler, and they were discussing what it means and how the media was getting ripped to shreds for something that they didn't deserve. And one guy in particular, and one guy that we have touted with his research and all of his storyline, because he's ended up being a part of the storyline, sadly, now, as he's been giving all the stories, and it's been Rick Westhead at TSN. So there'll be 2 pieces of tape in hour number 2 to discuss what's going on, to get us with the Canada update and let everybody know what's going on. Canada scored in the 101st minute, by the way. And they got a big win against France, to make sure that they could keep going and even still have the most remote chance of qualifying for the knockouts, even with a 6-point deduction. So there's plenty to talk about where Canada Soccer is concerned. Like I said, we got 2 pieces of tape that I want to get through. So what we'll do is we'll talk about the 2s, we'll get into your comments, and then we'll talk about Canada Soccer, and then we'll get you ready for the rest of the day. By the way, the rest of the week, to let you know what's going on. Tomorrow, we know the final in one of the lower division matches, one of the lower leagues, USL League 2, Peoria City and Seacoast United Phantoms. That is for the League 2 title. Asheville City got bumped out by Phantoms last night at Lionsbridge 1-0. We're hitching up with Peoria City batting leadoff tomorrow. Tyler's going to join us Wednesday at 9:15 as he always does, and we'll see if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast and Dylan Butler at 10 o'clock. Thursday, We catch up with our friends from FC Naples, who are now online in USL League One. They now have a coach and a sporting director. We catch up with him as a part of our Thursdays. Nino and Nico will wrap things up on your Thursday, and then Friday, wide open. I think Friday is when we're going to be catching up with our friends from El Farolito and FC Motown, because they are playing for the NPSL title. And so we'll catch up with them on Friday as a part of the show as well. So very, very busy times. And remember what Abe said, that Saturday night, 8 o'clock, 8:30 start is going to be Atlanta United 2 and Revs 2 on 92.9 The Games and the Odyssey app. And so it's going to be fun to have a Tues match on 92.9, and then follow that up at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock pregame with Santos Laguna and Atlanta United to get you through Leagues Cup. So there's all of that fun that we have this week. So it's a very stacked week across the board here on the morning show. And hopefully I won't have this head cold that will keep me coughing all entire week. Hang on just a second. Nothing like having to mute and mute consistently. So that's absolutely true. And Alex, to your point, yes, Nico Cantor is a part owner of FC Naples. If I can get him on, it'd be Nico, Nino. It would be Nico, Nino, and Nico. So it'd be Nico and then Niko. So it'd be Nico, Nino, Nico. Yeah, I think it's going to end up being one of the owners and their new coach and sporting director. I have not heard if Nico might be busy on morning footy over on Golasso. So it might be a crossover. But I will say this, what I will do is I will extend the invitation to turn it into a party line at 9:30 on Thursday morning. And we will lay all of that. Out. But yeah, Thursday, FC Naples, Nino Torres, Nico Moreno. So that's what we're staring at on Thursday. But yeah, we're going to be getting into what's going on with the NPSL, the USL League 2 title game, anything else that's going on the day. So very, very busy across a lot of boards for us here at SDH. All right, Atlanta United 2 last night, Saturday night. Man, it all just kind of runs together. Atlanta United 2 went to Huntsville, and we talked about what happened in Huntsville with Atlanta United 2 and the and Huntsville City Football Club. Both teams are trying to climb the ladder in MLS Next Pro in the Eastern Conference, and it ended up with a 2-1 win for Atlanta United 2. And it was a very, very, I'm not going to say chaotic, but it was as traditionally action-packed as it always is with these two clubs. Traditionally, how it goes is the team that is on the road wins this matchup. The team that's on the road has won this matchup the 3 times out. Juice boxes, by the time that the match started, Atlanta United on the road was a plus 220. Hunt City at home a minus 111. Your draw was a plus 280. Goalless at the break, but then 2 goals, 3 minutes from Rodrigo Neri. And it looks like, as we talked about on the postgame show, it looks like Atlanta United probably has found themselves a man up top to help things out up top. So here's the highlights, courtesy of the SDH Network. You'll know the guy who's calling the match. It's a guy named Jason.
Tyler Wolff with the assist in his Atlanta United 2 debut in 2024. Rodrigo Neri with the goal, his first in Atlanta. And Dominic Chong-Kui makes it all happen with a brilliant take out of the air with the left foot to settle it to Tyler Wolff. 1-0 Atlanta. You see the quality of Rodrigo Neri. Pure goal-scoring instincts. Driving across to the top of the 6th and slamming it home past Dowd. Brought down, and here comes Atlanta. Tyler Wolff, Matt Edwards. Cross top of the 6th, headed home. Goal, goal, goal. Rodrigo Neri is on fire to start the second half. It's quite a challenge for Chong Kui tonight, matched up with Bolaños quite a bit. It's been a give or take kind of battle. Bolaños, as you would expect, has gotten the better of the 16-year-old a few times, but Chong Kui has held his own against one of the most talented players in MLS Next Pro.
There you go. 2 goals by Rodrigo Neri in a 3-minute span. Atlanta United 2 is up 2-0. And the reason that I stop it there, I thought about airing what happened with the penalty call that eventually would make it 2-1. Ollie Wright would convert for Huntsville City Football Club to make it 2-1. And Atlanta United 2, and we talked to Steve Cook about this, and you can listen to the interview that we had with Steve in the Two's review, which is up on the network. We talked to him about chaos. We also talked to Rodrigo Neri and Caden Moore about it too. But in those moments, so you have a takedown, and it didn't look like it was a penalty. And you have, and I don't think I've ever seen this before in person. Might have seen it, watching television or what have you. But show of hands, how many of you in your viewing or in your person watching of the sport have seen players, not just the captain, but players surround the official and actually say that, okay, here's the deal. You're wrong. You need to change this to a penalty. Eventually, for however long the discussion was, and then I have it in a 2-minute clip, and it would be 2 minutes of just incredulous activity going on the field. I cannot remember the last time in public that I saw players surround a ref. And now remember, there is no VAR in MLS Next Pro. So literally this is the decisions by the folks on the field. And you have the players for Huntsville City surround the center ref. And by the time that they have finished surrounding him, they convince him that it should be a penalty on Atlanta United 2 and Huntsville City should go to the spot. Literally, it was a 2-minute conversation surrounding a center ref. And like I said, next time, Bart is in Vegas, by the way, and that's why he's not with us this morning. But I cannot recall the last time that a call is upgraded, if you want to call it that, to a penalty. Conversations from the Huntsville City players convert that into from a foul to a penalty call. Ollie Wright converts it 2-1 with, I think, 15 to go. And Atlanta United sees it out with 4 16-year-olds on the pitch. 4. And Dominic Chong Kui and Caden Moore played the entire 90 minutes. So you finish a match at 2-1, and you had 15 minutes to do it. So big ups to Atlanta United 2 for finishing that out the way that they did. So Ollie Wright converts with 15 to go. By the way, your numbers on the day, obviously Rodrigo Neri, an 8.5 for scoring 2 goals. Your starting lineup was a 4-2-3-1. Dominic Chong Kui, Caden Moore, Efren Morales, Matt Edwards. And Atlanta United 2 was not messing around with this particular match. DCQ, Caden Moore, Efren Morales, Matt Edwards. So Efren Morales was on the roster. Jaden Hibbert started in net. Efren Morales started in the 11. Noble Okello, Javi Armas playing in front of them. Then you had Nicholas Firmino, and you also had Tyler Wolf, Neri, and Luke Brennan. So if you want to call it a 4-2-3-1, you can. It's a 4-3-3. But you end up, obviously, Rodrigo Neri in 8.5, Wolf, Firmino, Luke Brennan, and Tyler Wolf got a yellow card in the 16th minute. And he played another 45 minutes with that yellow card on both sides of the interval. Nick Firmino was 7.4. Luke Brennan started at 6.8. Noble Okello was 6.6. Javi Armas is 7.3. Kane Morris 7.1. Matt Edwards is 7.6. DCQ is 6.6. Efren Morales is 6.5. Your substitutes for Atlanta United 2. Aiden Torres, who another one of the 16-year-olds that got to finish. You got the last 15 minutes. Cooper Sanchez, another 16-year-old, came in for Noble Okello for the final 15 minutes. Kareem Tamimi came in. Eric Centeno came in. So basically you had a fire wagon change by Steve Cook with 15 to go after the goal. Torres, Sanchez, Tamimi, and Centeno in for Neri, Okello, Wolf, and Brent. Each of them finished in the high sixes. But a big win for Atlanta United 2 and MLS Next Pro, going on the road into a hostile environment. And by the way, it was good to see our buddy Will Secor, who was there. They were tailgating out at gate number 3. And it was good to see them. And basically, it was good to see everybody up there in Huntsville. And they had about 4,000 folks there. It's a great environment for MLS Next Pro. And I think that's what, to a certain degree, I think that's what they're hunting for in MLS Next Pro, is all of these different environments that are in markets that have shown that they can handle this kind of entertainment. I know that they eventually are looking for more independently owned teams, like you see in Chattanooga and Carolina Core. And it's been fun to see from the beginning what Huntsville is doing. And BJ Callahan was there. He was in the booth next to us. Maddie was at the front of our booth, and she was looking out on the field. And all of a sudden, BJ Callahan, she turns to the right, looks through the glass, and sees BJ Callahan sit down. So Callahan was there. And, to see him kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the new generation of Huntsville City Football Club, as he now gets to lead with the group in Nashville City. You wonder who he was taking notes on.
Callahan. Sir.
Joey Skinner, maybe. He might have been one to keep an eye on. Joey Skinner gives you a veteran presence at the back, in that lineup that was there. So you wonder what the help may be. You really do. For Callahan and for Nashville City, or for Huntsville City Football Club, Nashville SC. Chris Applewhite, Jason's really been impressed with him at the back, coming back from injury. He's been back for a couple of matches now. So I would probably say you're looking at Applewhite, Joseph Skinner, maybe Isaiah Jones. So there were a couple of folks that were there for BJ Callahan to look at. But right now, with the way things stand, big win for Atlanta United 2. And for them now, that means that, they're putting some distance between themselves and Huntsville in the Eastern Conference. I know that we look at wins and losses, and yes, while it's not the be all end all, it is pretty important. 17 matches, Atlanta United 2 has 18 points. 3 points behind Toronto FC 2, 4 points behind Carolina Core. Next team coming to town, Revs 2 this weekend. Once again, that's a later start Saturday night than normal because Kennesaw State has stuff that they're doing on the field to begin with. They have a pre-event, a pre-Atlanta United 2 event. So Revs 2 coming to town, 2 points behind Atlanta United 2, 3 points ahead of Huntsville City Football Club. New England comes in 4-12-2-2. Atlanta's 4-9-4-2. So Revs 2 come to town, later start, 92-9 the game on Saturday night. It'll be fun to see everybody up there. And if you're there, if you're near there and can make it, please do. What we always say when it comes to all of our episodic programming here, to show support for your local teams across all divisions, if you can make it, go. If you can't make it and you're in the market, then follow along with local providers. So listen on 92.9 the game. Listen on the Odyssey app. Listen to our wrap-up on the Twos review on the network. So it's all going to be there. But big win for Atlanta United, too. Their 4th win of the year on the road in Huntsville. The road team has now won each and every one of these matchups, all 4 matchups. 3 for Atlanta United, 2 who've gone to Huntsville. They've won 3 of the 4. Huntsville City is coming in September 5th, I believe. So we'll see what happens there if they can continue to see what's going on and continue that streak. All right, so let's get to your comments. So I get to say hi to everybody who's here this morning. All right, so from the hellos. All right, so morning, Abby, morning, Unk. Morning, Alex. Okay, good. And Abby wasting no time messaging Jason about the hats. Michael, morning. Heath Bradley, morning. Yeah, I know. I don't know if you, he says, if it's the Ticketmaster Studios, do you have to pay a fee to broadcast from there? Yeah, a broadcast surcharge. I do not know of one. Morning, Abby. Abby says, she must say 36082. No way, that's how many attended that may be purchased, but that's not the turnstile actual. Morning, Emilio. Let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Michael. Morning, Unk. Morning, Will. Let's see. Will says, I think it's unfair to say she's been along with Stian and Saba out the best player this year. And that's the thing. And especially where he's now playing in the more advanced position. And that's why I wanted to bring that up with Abe. Traditionally, we're seeing him and Jay kind of alternate in who's going forward and who's staying behind. But I think now where Jay ends up being the more of a 6, more of a defensive midfielder, and Bart goes and engages in the play, yeah, I think that you're seeing what that change or what that alteration has done in the lineup offensively for Atlanta United going forward. Like I said, Jay's ball to Saba up the right-hand side that created the first goal, underrated and underappreciated just because it was so far back in the play. So very, 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 very cool to see what Jay and Bart have been able to do in their interchange that we got to see firsthand with that first goal and what we're seeing with Bart getting engaged in that 4-1-4-1 that we keep talking about. Unk, shouldn't have gone to a shootout. Result of the mistakes that were made in the first half. Bart could have done better. Shouldn't have come to that. No. But, yeah, you made the mistakes, and Rob wasn't happy about it. If you remember, and I would recommend going back and listening to the full-time report on 92.9 The Game, Rob wasn't happy. Rob was pissed. Should have been. So, dug yourself a hole. You got out of it. Should have won the game. DC gave you chances to get the 4th goal. Obviously, if you convert the penalty in the second half, then we're not having the discussions we are to a certain degree. We're still talking about what happened that got you that dug the hole for you in the first half anyway. But you convert your PKs, and we're not having the talk about Bart to the extent that we are. Yeah, and Michael, to the point that, literally you were to the point with who's left. And when it comes to the PKs, because literally who was left? It was Bart, it was Stian, it was Amador, it was Ronald, it was Josh. And I include Josh Cohen in that because at some point, had it gotten that point, you would have had goalie on goalie crime in the PK shootout. So, I don't know. Maybe Stian should have stepped up or something. Maybe Ronald should have stepped up. I don't know. But, no, the result is not solely on Bart. But yeah, Abby says people were mad at Cohen for the PKs. I'd love to see them save a PK as a goalie. Yeah, the percentages that are saved in general in penalties. There are very few keepers that are over 25%. To give you an idea, just as a thought. Last night when you had NYC and Querétaro go to penalties, the 2 keepers, Luis Barraza for NYC, has not saved a penalty all season. 0 for 5. The keeper for Querétaro 2 for 24 in his career. 8%. He's batting .083. So anybody that can save over 25% of PKs, I mean, Tim Million, Nick Raimondo, they are rare birds. They literally are very rare birds. They are. So when you have somebody who can, when you have someone who can save at that rate, you've got someone who's really special. And one of the things that I want to do, and see, but the thing is, I don't know how many keepers will actually have this conversation with you. But I want to have a conversation, and maybe we should have it with Garth Lagerwey, because Garth still holds the record for the best save percentage in the run-up shootout. He still holds that record. And I don't think that record's going to get touched, because I don't think they're going to bring that particular shootout back. But Garth Lagerwey, being a keeper, when you have folks running at you, I think it's easier to figure out what they're going to do. But I've always wanted to ask, and maybe we should ask Jessica Charman this too. When it comes to a PK, what are you looking at? Are you looking at, other than the gauging the level of confidence of someone as they walk to the spot, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the waist? Are you looking at the eyes? Are you looking at plant foot? What are you looking at in this situation? How do you save a PK? And Emilio says Brad might be 2%, but still, that's normal. Some folks never save them. But there are rare birds that are more than 20%, 25%. Rare. R-A-R-E, rare. But yeah, in talking to keepers, I want to know what you're staring at. What are you looking at to try to save a PK, other than having your notes and things like that? Tendencies, things written on a water bottle. Other than water bottle, what are you looking at? That's what I want to know. Like I said, that's just me. Yeah, and Will, like I said, Rio staying in for Pens would have been nice, but yeah, he had a cramp, and I talked to him about it after the match. He's like, yeah, I had a cramp, and I had to get subbed out. So no word. I mean, he was fine in the mixed zone after the match, but yeah, it was a cramp, and so it was something that had to be subbed out. Yeah, and Lennon missed his PK too. Brooks is grinding right now. And, it's one of those things where you push through and try to come out the other side. He had, the great ball into Rios when he was combining with Saba. So on that first goal, it goes Jay, Saba, Lennon. And Saba wanted it back off of Lennon's right shoulder, if memory serves. But then Lennon serves it into Rios, and Rios puts it in. Well, and Michael, and I apologize for the coughing. Michael says center ref was horrible, and that's being generous. But like I said, I will say this. He was consistent. He might have been consistently bad, but at least he was consistent in his administration of everything. If he wasn't going to whistle anything, fine. If players are going to get mauled, great. At least be consistent about it, and he was. And I vaguely remember him from other things. I think he was late. I think he was VAR in Qatar. I think he was active in Qatari World Cupian things. I think. I mean, I remember I remember an event that I think it was something World Cup based. So he's been in the middle of it before. Alex, VAR reviews agonizingly long. Yeah, that's another part of it too. And that's the thing. I will always maintain, and morning, Alex, morning, Unk, that if you are an agonizingly long review, you're looking for something as opposed to trying to navigate a call. You're trying to re-referee at that point. I would still have a time limit. I would still have a time limit of like maybe 2 to 2.5. Because if you're north of 2.5, I think you're looking for something. I really think you're looking for something. Instead of just navigating the match and trying to reinforce a call or do something clear and obvious. And that's the other thing I think that gets lost sometimes in the booth. Clear and obvious. Stop looking to re-referee if it's not clear and obvious. Don't take out the magnifying glass. I think that gets lost. Yeah, the refs. Abby thinks the refs have been awful. You're not in a minority opinion. Will, Leagues Cup on the day of the opening ceremony was certainly a choice by MLS. I think, Will, I mean, if you look at it in live time, started 2:00 in the afternoon? And I think that's kind of what you're looking at. It's like, well, if you want to see something live, you're going to watch it live. If you want to watch it on tape, you'll watch it on tape. If you want to watch a live sporting event, you can come watch us, I'm guessing. So we'll see what happens. And Abby DVR'd the opening ceremonies, just watched it last night. All I'm going to say is this, and I may watch the documentary, but Celine Dion is just incredible. Celine Dion can make an Edith Piaf song sound better. And she was crushing it, and people were crying, as they should have. She crushed it. Like I said, I apologize for coughing this morning. I would disagree, Amelia, that Lennon's a one-trick pony. Good morning, by the way. I would disagree with that. Abby, don't know why Saba didn't take the PK in regulation time. Don't know. That is a decision that is internal amongst the players themselves as to how it looks. Let's see. Morning, Will. Morning, Abby. Wiley. I do not get the Ronald Hernandez love. Don't have a real problem with him, but he must be knocking their socks off in practice. Okay. And this is something that I will, like I said, I know that we will respectfully disagree on Ronald Hernandez. And I'm setting my information up knowing that you're going to know what the answer is. So, here's versus other fullbacks, and this is over the last 365 days. This is courtesy of our friends at FB Ref. And here's the complete scouting report on Ronald Hernandez versus other fullbacks on this planet. Top quarter on the planet in assists. This is all divisions, all players. If I'm interpreting FB Ref out appropriately. Standard stats per 90 minutes versus other fullbacks on this planet. Top quarter in assists. Top 1% in yellow cards. Top third in XG. Top third in non-penalty XG. In shooting. Top 7% on the planet versus other fullbacks. Top third in average shot distance. Top third in, once again, XG and non-penalty XG. Passing per 90 minutes. Pass completion, top quarter of the top quarter. Top third in pass completion percentage in short passing and in medium passing, top 15% of the world. Assists, top quarter. Pass types, Through balls, top 12% on the planet. Corner kicks, top third. In swinging corners, ranks top quarter. Goal and shot creation, top quarter. In take on, top 11% in live ball passing, top quarter on the planet in goal creating actions versus other fullbacks. Defense per 90 minutes. Tackles in the middle third, top 30% on the planet. Top third in challenges lost. Interceptions, top 20%. Clearances, top quarter. Errors, top third. Touches in his defensive area and inside his 18. Top quarter. Top quarter in touches in his defensive third. Top touches, top third in the attacking penalty area. Successful take-on percentage. Times tackled during take-on and tackled during take-on percentage. It has not happened. Top 1% on the planet. Miscontrols, he is top 10% on the planet. Dispossessed, top 13% of the planet, meaning he hasn't been. Miscellaneous stats. Yellows, reds, offside, interceptions. Top 20% on the planet in interceptions. Ball recoveries, top third on the planet. For those of you that are looking for comparisons, right now there's Hugo from Corinthians, Villarasa from Huesca in Spain, Jordan Lafort in Angers, Lorenzo Dickman from Brescia in Italy, Kessler Hayden from Aston Villa, Ivan Calero in Cartagena, and Ariel Mendy, who also plays in the French league. So, so those are your numbers involving out of town. But yeah, Bart's in Vegas. Bart's 3 hours behind. So right now it's 7:30 in the morning for Bart. If Bart crashes, he crashes. But that's from our friends at FBref. And that is where Ronald Hernandez is amongst other fullbacks with the number of minutes that he's played in the last 365 days. So those are Bart's. That's just from a numerical standpoint from our friends at FBref. So, so that's your comparison statistically for Ronald Hernandez. All right, so let's see. Morning, Abby. Morning, Wiley. Morning, Will. And there was part of that discussion. And Michael Valverde, Lennon looks tired, must be among the most minutes played this season. Let's see. Let's actually see where Brooks Lennon is in in minutes played. Let's see. Like I said, I apologize. I'm fighting a head cold, and I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed that this is the second summer cold that I have this year. Let's see. So minutes. Yep, number one by 200. Brooks Lennon has played 2,249 minutes this year in 25 matches. 209 minutes more than Brad Gazan. Next positional player, Tristan Muyumba, 327 minutes behind him. So Brooks has played 25. He has started 25. 6 assists, no goals, passing at 84.5%. XG at 0.54. Total attacking assists, 58 in 25 matches. 7 scoring attempts. Committed 27 fouls, suffered 11, and 5 yellow cards on the year. But 209 minutes more than Brad, 327 minutes more than Tristan Muyumba. So that's where the numbers are with Brooks. Yeah, Alex, having not one but 2 fully functional backup strikers is a strange feeling. Let's see. Morning 4-card. Morning, Emilio. Let's see. 4-card wants to know who's going to Club America and Chelsea. So we'll see. We'll be there. We'll have game reports and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be just another day for us at SDH. We'll be doing morning show, and then we'll roll into Club America in Chelsea, and we'll see what's up there. But yeah, Bart, like I said, Bart's in Vegas, and I don't know when he returns. Obviously, when Bart is on this side of the planet, he can hop in. We'll talk about the WNT. And Hutch, that's not fair. 4 words you don't want to hear during a United match. Sleesh at the spot. That's not fair. Let's see. Guzan's save percentage, penalty save percentage. All right, so let me see. Brad's, let's see. Brad Guzan. Once again, this is from our friends at FB Ref. So we'll see. Scouting report for Brad. Brad compared to Hugo Lloris and Filip Stankovic and Gaga Slanina and Andrew. Player news, goalkeeper. Okay, so all right. Now I may have to do some math here. In kept statistics, Brad is actually 3 of 26. Or 3 of 20. All right, see if I can read these numbers. Penalty kicks attempted, penalty kicks allowed, and penalty kicks saved. All right, so save percentage in penalties, 13.6% when it comes to, so he's 3 for 26. Premier League apparently didn't keep these numbers through the 15-16 season. Then they started it in 2016-17, which is odd sounding at the very least. 3 of 26. And so 3 of 26, 13.6%. So he was, so with Atlanta United, 0 for 1, 1 for 7, 1 for 5, 0 for 4, 0 for 1, 0 for 2, and he is 1 of 4 this year. So those are the numbers for Brad. But yeah, in a career, 3 for 26, 13.6% for Brad Guzan and his save percentage. Unk's still not convinced, haven't found the Guzan replacement. And no, there are times when Josh hasn't claimed the position. So let's see. Discussing, let's see. There's Unk, there's Abby, there's Emilio. Trade window ending. When is the transfer window? Transfer window MLS. Let's see. The secondary transfer window. Thursday, August 8th. For Canadian clubs, Thursday, August 14th. And this is something that they tweaked with the Canadian clubs because of their CPL schedule. They opened it a week early and are closing it a week early for the Canadian clubs. For the U.S. clubs in Major League Soccer, July 18 to August 14. And no, I have not heard any kind of a Miranchuk update. So we know it's out there. And we also know that Marco Royce is out there as well. Cesar Luis Merlo last night. Marco Royce is the Galaxy's reinforcement. Already in agreement to pay $350,000 to Charlotte for cutting discovery rights. So basically, once the medical exams are passed, according to Merlo, signing until December 2025, option of 1 more year. So basically, Charlotte got $350,000 from LAG, or if this becomes official, $350,000 for dibs, which LAG is in turn flipping for Marco Royce, apparently, possibly, probably soon, according to Cesar Luis Merlo. And he's calling this an exclusive. There's already an agreement to pay Charlotte $350,000 to cut priority at Discovery once medical exams are passed. Signs until December 2025 with the option of 1 more year. So the U.S. clubs have until the 18th. Canadian clubs have until the 12th because their window started sooner. Yeah, Unk for Bart. I'm an hour behind him. Is Nevada in the mountain? I thought Nevada was in the Pacific. Getting me all confused about that. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Ronald Hernandez. Emilio's wanting to know, does it take into account minutes played, and should it? I think that it's what you do in that time frame. I know that folks will look at the number of minutes played, but I think it's what you do in that time frame, and that's what we've seen with Ronald so far. I know that we will respectfully disagree about Ronald Hernandez, but I wanted to go to FBref to go through those numbers and let you see what Ronald has done, if I'm interpreting them correctly. So I think that Ronald has acquitted himself fairly well with Atlanta United. Like I said, I know we're going to disagree on it, but that's the beauty of why we're here. So we'll talk about it all the time. Let's see. Yeah, Bar. Don't know if he's. Like I said, Bar can crash whenever he can. Let's see. I don't think Boca and Garth forgot about the window, but I know I have not heard. Let's go ahead and see if there's anything. Let's go ahead and we'll go down the Miranchuk. We'll go down the Miranchuk window here and see if there's. All right, so Napoli Magazine. This is literally within the hour. Napoli Magazine from Tutto Mercato Web, quoting them, only the last bureaucratic steps are missing for Alexei Miranchuk's move to Atlanta United. The agreements with Atalanta are tight, and in fact, also those with the player who has been convinced to accept the transfer to the United States. This is Tutto Mercato Web once again. We are at the last mile for the closing of a rather complicated deal, especially due to the slowness of Major League Soccer in terms with agreements with players. Well, that's probably more along the lines of the international trade certificate and the visa than it is with Major League Soccer. Over the past week, Miranchuk has regularly trained with the Nerazzurri. After the farewell of the Russian, there could be an acceleration for the right winger. Hateboer is considered a reserve at the moment. And let's see, that continues. Atalanta will not replace Miranchuk as they already have Zaniolo in the squad. So, according to Tutto Mercato Web, it's close. So that's your latest. So it is the last mile, according to Tutto Mercato Web, from Antonio Petrozzuolo. It works for Napoli Magazine. So it's close with Alexei Miranchuk. So that's where we are in the Miranchuk sweepstakes. So we'll see. Let's see. So Unk's going to make it to the Benz. Let's see. Emilio. Yeah, I mean, I think shots are shots. I think shots are shots. Does it take into account shots that go over or wide of the net? It's still an attempt. I don't think it's listed as a save. I think it's listed in the PKA category, the penalty kick attempt. Uncle says he's confident Nevada is mountain time. Vegas is Vegas. Okay, so all right, so it's Pacific. Wiley, general thought about the team. We could use some LGP energy, but Noah's at the U20s and no one else seems to have it. Yeah, Noah, and this is a point that Jarrett makes a lot. When you have the youngins are the ones that are taking the mantle, and they're not taking any ish from anybody. They're not standing down from anybody and anyone. So it's been cool to see, but I don't think that should be the trigger each and every time. So it's great to see Noah have that want to. It's great to see Ephra have that want to. It's great to see Jay have that want to, but you also, and Dax, but you want to have more veterans take that bit between the teeth and be a part of that whole growth in a match day. And Abby thinks that Nick Firmino should go in earlier. I think game state just has a lot to do with that. So Thanks to everybody for coming in this morning. All right, so here's your Canada update. And like I said, we're going to play 2 pieces of tape. And we're going to get you up to date on everything that's going on up there. And it's still a mess and a half. It is still a mess and a half. And it came out this past weekend that Bev Priestman, basically, you could, however you want to phrase it. Bev Priestman, after initially denying things, according to the CP, now, like I said, we're going to work backward here a little bit. Bev Priestman yesterday offered her first public comments. Absolutely heartbroken for the players, and I would like to apologize from the bottom of my heart for the impact this situation has had on all of them. I know how hard they have worked following a very difficult year in 2023, and that they're a group of people who care very much about sportsmanship and integrity. As the leader of the team on the field, I want to take accountability, and I plan to fully cooperate with the investigation. Okay, great. What'd you do? You're apologizing for the impact the situation has. But for someone who has been basically death penaltyed as a coach for a year, and I imagine that there are billable hours that are attached to this, that you admitted no blame. Yeah, I did it. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Basically, you apologized for the impact that all of this has had. Priestman and 2 assistants suspended by FIFA for a year as a part of the punishment. Assistant coach and eventually Priestman all removed from the Olympic team and sent home. Sanctions, which included the 6-point penalty, 2 wins basically, and a fine of around $313,000 levied against Canada Soccer. Now, this is part of this that is troubling. And I think that you're not seeing the forest for the trees here. You're going down the wrong path. Canadian Sports Minister Carla Qualtrough announced the government is withholding some of Canada Soccer's funding as a result of the scandal. With all due respect, Minister, I think you're missing the point. Speaking during a media availability outside the stadium before the match against France, Qualtrough was asked whether she accepted the apology. Quote, I certainly do on behalf of Canadians, but there still has to be consequences for what happened. Qualtrough said, given that the women's program receives funding from Sport Canada, it's withholding funds, quote, relating to suspended Canada Soccer officials for the duration of their FIFA sanction. A spokesperson for sports for Qualtrough's office confirmed the funding in question is allocated for salaries, but that Sport Canada is still determining exactly how much should be withheld. The funding will not impact the overall available funding to the women's program. Quote, using a drone to surveil another team during a closed practice is cheating, Qualtrough said. It's completely unfair to Canadian players and to opposing teams. It undermines the integrity of the game itself. She added there was a deeply concerning, in quotation marks, pattern of behavior at Canada Soccer. We must and will get to the bottom of this, expanded on the thoughts during her scrum, looking into exactly how much money we gave for their 3 salaries related to their pay and benefits, and that money will definitely be suspended. Then we're going to work with Canada Soccer and own the podium to see what other financial restraints we can put on. You're missing the point. With all due respect, Minister, you are missing the point. Take that money and redirect it into the program itself. Withholding the funds does you no good. You've suspended a coach, 2 coaches, and an analyst. And you want to not reinvest that money into a program that is hurting financially anyway. You needed a tenured professorship, basically, to bring in Jesse Marsh. Yet you want to withhold funding after 2 coaches and an analyst have been suspended. That funding you want to withhold instead of reinvesting it in other allocations of resources into the program. Do some good with it instead of withholding the funding. Priestman said that Canada's achievements, and once again, this is from our friends at the Canadian Press. Priestman said that Canada's achievements, which include gold, were legitimately earned. Quote, this program and team have allowed this country to reach the pinnacle of women's soccer, and their winning of the gold medal was earned through sheer grit and determination, despite reports to the contrary. I fought with every ounce of my being to make this program better, much of which will never be known or understood. I wish I could say more, but I will refrain at this time given the appeals process and the ongoing investigation. Billable hours. And once again, Kevin Blue, Chief Executive Officer of Canada Soccer, said he was investigating a potential systemic ethical shortcoming. That's a lovely three-word phrase. That's a lovely three-word phrase for folks that do not have the scruples, I guess, to do the jobs that they were asked to do. Systemic ethical shortcoming. Have to remember that. That's got to be a T-shirt. Systemic ethical shortcoming. COC, the Olympic Committee, is exploring the rights of appeal regarding the deduction. Qualtrough, the sports minister, said, I do feel it's punitive for the athletes, for the team, to tell you the truth. Because honestly, if you want to address the perception of unfair advantage that came with the actions were taken, you could have done it with a 3-point hit to deal with the game in question. With the team in question, it felt like going beyond that is really punishing the players. Messages left with the COC regarding appeal plans were not immediately returned. The point penalty did not eliminate Canada from the tournament, made their chances of qualifying for the knockout much more difficult. Message left with CAS. The Court of Arbitration of Sport was not immediately returned. And so Canada opened the tournament with a 2-1 win over New Zealand. Then the Group A finale Wednesday against Colombia in Nice. Qualtrough said the issues caused significant distraction and embarrassment for Team Canada and all Canadians here in Paris, and at home it's deeply regrettable. So you're withholding funding. You're missing the point. Missing the point. Missing the point. And Wiley, even if they are just withholding the coach's salary or salaries, take that money and reinvest it. Reinvest it into the day-by-day operations. Make sure that Canada Soccer can still function. Considering how much of a financial dire strait it's in, keep it going. Reinvest it into other things. Make sure that it can still work on a daily basis. Even if you say that you're withholding salaries. Like I said, take that money and reinvest it in the day-to-day. Make sure that you can keep the lights on. I know I'm being a bit extreme in that, but make sure you can keep the lights on. Make sure that you can find out what's up with, pay your bills. Keep the infrastructure going in place. Just redirect it. You don't have to hold it. Abby says Bev Priestman should have to pay the fine, not Canada Soccer. He's a slap in the head to wake up. You used like Jethro Gibbs and NCIS about Cher to Nicolas Cage. Snap out of it. One of those. Interesting. And now to the men's side, which is kind of related to the women's side. And this is where we start our two pieces of tape. First piece of tape is, and like I said, we're working backwards. Yeah, the slap is for the sports minister of sport. Yesterday, there was a conversation that was had with our friends at One Soccer, and it's Jordan Wilson, our buddy Christian Jack, and Gareth Wheeler about the situation in and of itself. And the whole conversation is on their YouTube channel. I would recommend subscribing to One Soccer because it gives you a window into what everybody's thinking up north. This was just a part of the conversation involving Rick Westhead and what Westhead has been doing and what Rick has done. And like I said, the last thing you want if you are in Canadian media circles and I've maintained this the entire time. The last thing you want is Rick Westhead's byline on a story that you're involved in. The last thing. So let's go to the conversation that our friends at One Soccer had. And once again, you're going to hear Jordan Wilson and our buddy Christian Jack about where things are with them as a nation. And once again, this is courtesy of our friends at One Soccer and onesoccer.ca up north.
Talk about margins, right, in football. And I know this as a former player. Foam rolling was huge. 5% here, 3% there, gets you ready for a match. At the end of the day, if you're looking or spying or cheating, I totally agree with you, KJ, on another nation, another team, that for me comes from insecurity. You focus on your group and what you have to do to go and achieve. You're not watching, you're not spying, you're not coloring outside the lines to try to gain advantage. You want to do everything that is ethically correct to go and give you those percentages. But anything outside of that, for me, is cheating.
I didn't also like the fact that some people in this country took it as an opportunity to say it's not what Canadians do. And I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we stand for as Canadians, and what is Canada Soccer, and what does this country stand for at the moment? Because it's a hard look in the mirror. A very hard, difficult look in the mirror. We have to be careful when Canadians stand on a high moral ground and say, that's not what we stand for as Canadians, regardless of what other people do it. This is our country doing it right now. We have no business pointing to others saying, we do not stand for that as Canadians. We do not stand for it anyway. Loads of other countries who've been at a wonderful record in this country, in this sport, countries have never done it. So why do we go on this and start saying this is not what Canadians stand for? What do Canadians actually stand for during this time? Because if you look at it, this has not been a good few years for what actually Canadians stand for in terms of ethic behavior, how the people are treating people. The person who's continued to work the hardest on this story and investigate this and get the truth out has been lambasted on social media to a point where it's borderline torture for that person. Other people inside this sport have been messaging him. People with, in my belief, I've got sources saying that families of players have been messaging this. And you know what? There's a lot of division in the media in this country. So I'm going to say it's TSN and it's Rick Westhead, and the work that person has done for the last few days has got this story out. Without that person's work, and then we have the ability to say, oh, we as Canadians don't stand for it. Well, go and have a look at social media and let's talk to Rick Westhead and see what he's gone through over the last 48 hours to truly find out what Canadians stand for, because it's not good.
It's not good. And everybody's there are some folks that are glad that this story was brought to light. Others are like, oh, it happened a couple of years ago. What does it matter? It matters. So the old adage is, if 50% of the people are with you and 50% of the people are against you, you're doing your job. These days on social media, a lot of times, you find out that vocal minority, they're the ones that are the loudest. And Westhead is getting lit up on social media. And it's disappointing. Rick has done tremendous work to bring this story to light. Now, to the other half of the equation, and this is the longer piece of tape. This is from Toronto FC. And it was the John Herdman press conference leading into Toronto FC's matchup in Leagues Cup. And what I want you to do, and once again, thanks to our friends at One Soccer for running this whole thing. This was the lead-in to, I think this was the Matchday -1 press conference on Friday, leading into Red Bulls. Here is John Herdman. After all of this stuff has come out, after all of this work from Westhead has come to the fore, here is John Herdman at his press conference discussing what's going on. I want you to listen, and I want you to listen how he responds to the questions in the press conference. Like I said, it's a little long, but I thought it was important. Listen to John Herdman on Friday.
I have to ask you a question on another topic. As you know, Canada Soccer is in the spotlight for alleged actions at the Olympics. I know you're no longer involved with Canada Soccer, but Kevin Blue today cited a systematic ethical shortcoming. And I wonder if you could tell us how prevalent you think spying is in world football, and during your time as Canada coach, were you a victim of it, or did you take part in it?
Yeah, I mean, I arrived back late last night from the Olympics. Had the chance to watch my boy play and obviously celebrate that moment with him. And it reminds you again how hard players work to get to that moment, the sacrifices they make with them and their families. It's certainly a big moment. So landing to that news was a surprise and a shock. I think firstly, I'm devastated for the players. I think we have to, moments like this, respect that they've put some work in to be there. I've been a head coach of a team that's competed for medals, won medals, and those players need the spotlight on their talents at this moment in time. This isn't a time to sort of nitpick about scouting at tournaments. I think, whatever's happened, I think Canada Soccer are going to be conducting their internal reviews, which is the right thing to do. I'll be happy to help them with that process for sure, to tell them about the experiences we had in our competitions, etc. But for me, this is about the players. We're really putting spotlight on something that isn't, what this Olympics is about, which is their talent and their moment to shine. And I think the quicker we get back there, the better.
I think that's why it is news, though. It is taking place at the Olympics. I'm just wondering if you can give us your thoughts on how prevalent you think this kind of thing is in world football.
Yeah, I think, I'll go through that process with Canada Soccer. I think anything I say now, it's just going to bring more spotlight to this situation. As I say, I'd like the spotlight to be back on our players as quickly as we can. For me, the integrity of the review is important. And if I'm asked to contribute, I'll be there. I think everyone will be aware of situations from, previous coaches, etc., that have been public. I think there's things in the public domain that, these things have happened before. But for me, I'm happy to help Canada Soccer in any way I can. But I would say I just want this to be about the players. I really feel for them. They have a game tomorrow, and knowing what it's like in those environments, there's enough pressure as it is. They just need to be able to focus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But can you say whether or not you had knowledge of or involvement in any type of drone use or spying during your time?
Yeah, I mean, I come back to the question, which is, this isn't Olympic Games. It's the biggest event on the planet. It's a sporting event that has massive integrity. And for me, we have to make sure that those things are upheld always. I've always gone into Olympic Games, World Cups, big events with integrity in mind and the ability to compete at the highest level following the rules and processes. So, from my side, as I say, I'll help Canada Soccer where I can with that review. But I'm highly confident that in my time as a head coach at an Olympic Games or World Cup, we've never been involved in any of those activities.
I'm highly confident that in my time, we were never involved in those opportunities. First off, and how many times did he not answer the question? I tried to take it back to, the players, the Olympics. I think he circled back to the same phrase 3 or 4 times. He also said it's not the time to nitpick about scouting. And then the part at the end, fairly confident in my time, highly confident in my time as a head coach at an Olympic Games or World Cup, we've never been involved in those activities. Notice he never mentions CONCACAF. Highly confident in my time As a head coach at an Olympic Games or World Cup, we've never been involved in any of those activities. So Westhead, that evening, Friday night, after that press conference, 17 players on Canada's men's national soccer team attended a briefing on August 31st, 2021, in a Toronto hotel ballroom and watched as head coach John Herdman played a video that showed the Honduran national team's closed practice a day earlier. A source with firsthand knowledge of the meeting told TSN. Canada would play Honduras in a World Cup qualifier on September 2nd. 1-1 draw. And an intense Herdman, this is the wording from Westhead, an intense Herdman urged his players to study the screen closely. Herdman explained the Honduran team favored a 4-4-2 with either a medium or a high press, and that simplicity was the key to Canada being successful in the important game, the source said. Herdman emphasized, quote, turning the Honduran team around, end quote, in the first 15 minutes, according to the source. TSN corroborated the source's account of the meeting. After that quote, at the end, highly confident in my time as a head coach at an Olympic Games or a World Cup, we've never been involved in those activities. That was a World Cup qualifier. Massaging the language at an Olympic Games, at a World Cup. Didn't mention World Cup qualifier, which is what this Honduran meeting was. More people connected to Canada Soccer have come forward to share their experiences with the Federation's secret spying program. Westhead continued. One former Canada Soccer employee said spying on opposing team practices has been a tactic used since at least 2016, when the women's national U16 team played in a CONCACAF tournament in Grenada. At that tournament, staff discussed how a colleague had found a place to stay hidden and spy on opponent practices, and also talked about how they needed to patrol the perimeter of their own training center, the source said. Two former Canada soccer contractors were asked by women's national team coaches to film opposing team practices. Both of the contractors requested anonymity because they still work in the soccer industry and are concerned about retribution. One said they worked with Canada Soccer as an analyst in Vancouver when they were a university student in 2017. Contractor said they were provided with a camcorder and directed by a Team Canada coach to find their way into a closed U.S. team practice and to record it. Quote, the coach told me we can't go because if they catch us, we'll be in trouble, but you can go, and if they catch you, you can just say you're a student, just like just a random person, the former contractor said. So they gave me a camcorder, the kind of mom would take to record her kid's game, and sent me off, telling me to try to get some footage of their formations. I found a vantage point and filmed 2 U.S. practices, but the footage that we acquired was so awful because I was like shaking the whole time, and you can hear me hyperventilating. I was so deeply uncomfortable while I was on these missions, and I was being told that if I really wanted to work in women's football, if I really wanted to have a career, that this was the kind of tough stuff that you have to do. I was so desperately trying to break into this mysterious and competitive industry, and I didn't think about what was right or wrong. I just wanted to impress these powerful people, end quote. Second contractor said they were a member of the women's national team staff in February 2023 during She Believes. Contractor said they were assigned twice to film an opposing team's closed practice. Quote, one time the training got moved, so I didn't have to push back, and the second time I just said no, the contractor said. The coach pushed back and said they really needed for me to do this, and I just stood my ground and said no. Why would I take that risk and possibly ruin my career? To put up a drone, you need to register it under a name and an ID number. So it's very easy for law enforcement around a big tournament to identify whose drone is whose, end quote. TSN was contacted Friday by a source familiar with Canada Soccer's arrangement to use the Edmonton Soccer Dome in November of 2021. Canada Soccer secured a lease to the country's largest indoor dome before the men's national team World Cup qualifier against Costa Rica and Mexico. When the federation insisted the dome's managers refuse access to the visiting teams, those managers agreed. The Canadian team only trained on the dome field once. When the managers asked why that was, the Canadian team told them that they didn't need to use the field, but wanted to ensure Mexico and Costa Rica trained outside so the Canadians could watch them. That's Rick Westhead. That's the work that Westhead has done. And literally, that was Friday. So, John Herdman Friday said what he said. People got chapped because he said what he said. They go to Westhead. Westhead publishes this article Friday night, dinner time. And people start chasing after Westhead on social media because folks with 280 character muscles like to do that a lot. I got half a mind to try to track Westhead down and see if Rick will come on the show with us to talk about what's going on, but I want to see if there are any other developments since we're now officially caught up in all of this that's going on with Canada Soccer. News out of North Carolina. Courage have locked up Denise O'Sullivan for another 2 years. That is a big signing for them. Big signing. Keeping the captain there in town over the next little bit. No new bid yet from Napoli for Billy Gilmore. Gotham signed English defender Jess Carter through a deal through 2026. Couple of notes. Emma Hayes is the second coach to win each of their first 2 major tournament matches as USWNT after Anson Dorrance, who won all 6 in the 91 World Cup. One other note before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch and where to watch it. Rob Harris. He's another guy that you really don't want to have on a byline if he's talking about stuff. The IOC, and this is from, once again, our friends at Sky and Rob Harris. The IOC says gender parity in football is too expensive and complex. Harris's story. Olympics chiefs have undercut their, and this is, once again, this is Rob's wording here. Olympics chiefs have undercut their advocacy of full gender equality, telling Sky it would be too costly and complex to have as many women's teams as men's sides participating in football. Sky News understands FIFA has been pushing to add 4 more women's national sides to match the size of the 16-team men's event. Understood that there is an unwillingness by the IOC to remove 4 men's teams, given how lucrative the matches are for ticket sales. IOC said in a statement to Sky, the men's football tournament is an exception, being the only sport with 16 teams based on a long-standing agreement respected by the current IOC leadership. Raising the number of women's teams would potentially trigger requests from other team sports, which would then have an even greater impact on the cost, complexity, size, and sustainability of the games, end quote. There are the same number of men's and women's teams in basketball, handball, hockey, rugby, sevens, and volleyball. Fewer women in water polo. IOC had implied there was a desire to end the disparities between the football competitions when asked by Sky at the news conference. IOC Director of Corporate Development and Sustainability, Marie Chalois, said the direction is set. We are on a journey and we need to continue to work, end quote. But it later became clear there were obstacles, Harris, on the journey when the IOC provided more detail. The IOC is committed to keeping the Olympic Games within a set framework to reduce the cost and complexity. The overall athlete quota for the Olympic Games in Paris has been set at 10,500 athletes. And by the way, it's even Steven. It's literally 5,250 of each. As a general rule, if any international federation wants to increase its number of places, the IOC will have to take these out of the existing quota allocated for the sport or out of the quota for another sport. This was not possible for Olympics Games Paris 2024, which explains the quotas in place. 157 men's events compared to 152, 20 mixed gender events. So, tell me if you're surprised. Excuse me. IOC says one thing means another. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here involving players, considering that we are, handful of weeks away from the beginning of regular seasons overseas. Looks like PSG have agreed to a deal on Jadon Sancho. They have to meet Manchester United's asking price of £50 million. Nico Williams, who's contracted to Bilbao till 27, has made a decision about his future amid links to Barca and PSG. Manchester United could target one of Nordi Mukiele, midfielder Manuel Ugarte, or Slovakia's center back Milan Skriniar in a potential swap deal for Sancho. West Ham opened negotiations over a deal for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was valued in excess of £15 million. United have also agreed to a fee of £15 to £20 million to sign Nusayr Mazraoui from Bayern Munich, but they've got to unload Bissaka first. Chelsea made contact with Juve about Chiesa, who's also wanted by Spurs. Genoa still pushing for a deal with David De Gea. De Gea's salary expectations are proving to be a stumbling block. Villa submitted a loan offer for Calvin Phillips. Barcelona unlikely to sign Joao Cancelo because of the £25 million asking price. Everton have agreed to a deal worth about £22 million to sign Jake O'Brien from Lyon. Crystal Palace's winger, Jesurun Raksaki, prefers a move to Southampton over Leeds. West Ham willing to meet Monaco's €35 million price tag for Youssouf Fofana. He's got a verbal agreement with AC Milan. Milan also closing in on a deal with Emerson Royal from Spurs. Arsenal in pole position to sign Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon. Liverpool not prepared to submit a bid for the 26-year-old. So that's gossip, rumor, and innuendo. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Then we'll get out of here. And once again, thanks for putting up with me today because of all of the coughing and the clearing of the throat and everything. I know that that's just got to sound incredible and awesome. Once again, tomorrow we're going to catch up with our friends from Peoria City batting leadoff and find out about USL League 2 and the championship game there. And that'll start things off on tomorrow. So soccer on the tube. What to watch and where to watch it. Argentine Primera, very, very busy day. 7 matches in the Primera. The rest is what's going on around the planet. And if there's anything going on, you can catch it on your favorite device. I've been kind of addicted to Gold Zone, actually. Once again, Primera. 7 matches, 1 at 2, 1 at 3:30, 1 at 4, 2 at 5:45, and 2 at 8. Other leagues and other stuff going on, go to fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here. You can be a true degenerate. All the BNs, CDO, Nuestra Tele, For the Fans, Gold TV with our buddy Nino Torres that you can watch him call matches from South America. Like I said, we'll have Nino on Thursday. And all of the activity that goes on there at Fanatis. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. So once again, fntz.co/soccer down here helps us out here at the network, helps out Fanatis by getting them subscribers, and it helps you out by being a true degenerate when it comes to everything going on across the planet. That's a show. And wow, Sharif, Olaf from across the ocean. What ocean and where are you, sir? So thanks to everybody who's popped in today. Thanks to everybody who's part of the Twitch pitch, as you always are. And once again, thanks to Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game joining us early. Busy week, like I said. Peoria City's joining us tomorrow at 9:05. Tyler's joining us Wednesday. Hopefully Dylan's joining us Wednesday. FC Naples, Nino and Nico, excuse me, on Thursday. And then Friday, we're probably going to have our NPSL finalists in the 10 o'clock hour getting you ready. And then we got to talk about what's going on with Atlanta United and the twos. And all of that discussion will get us into the weekend. And it'll be a very, very busy week on a bunch of different fronts, but it's going to end with the twos and New England Revolution 2 on 92.9 The Game. On the Mediterranean, you're in the Med. Wow. I think that's probably one of the, well, short of BAM, I think that's probably one of the longest distances that folks have been listening and hanging out and paying attention. So, Sharif, good to see you this morning, my friend, or good to be seen. So very, very busy all week long, and we'll be here to talk about everything going on in Paris everything going on across the board. Like I said, when Bart wants to crash and wants to talk about the WNT, he could do that too, because it's been chaos. Yesterday, nothing like an 11-goal game between with Zambia. Wow, 11 goals on the board in that one. U.S. is scoring at a pretty high clip. And everybody, thanks again, as always. Abby, be safe. Everybody be safe. And thanks for putting up with me again. Hopefully this thing will be out of my system by tomorrow, and I can actually sound like I'm not coughing every 12 seconds, which I know makes for fantastic audio and video. So for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us for another go-round of the morning show here on the SDH Network. Play it safe, everybody. Be well, and we will catch up with you again tomorrow. So we know what time it is. It's time for me to find our closing billboard so I can whistle us to a close.